Knowledge is power. Make an impact by learning more. Call us right now for more help at 866-945-8070. Yep. Hang on, I'm going to go live on Facebook here so we can get this party started. Get the party started. Let's see. I'll do it on my page. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw your hands moving, Gina.
I was just getting the party started.
I know. Close a couple of tabs here. I'm going to leave up there at Enterprises. And let's grab the live link. And let's put it in between Wall and Main. Tell the whole world. We are live, and we're live with Meet Edgar this week. Join us now. Forget join us now. And post. And Gina, looks like you're getting featured.
Again, okay. It's my
and good morning. We're live. It is Friday, September 8th, 2017. We're going to be talking about Meet Edgar. First, we're going to get some other stuff into the docket here. So, first of all, our hearts, of course, go out to the people from Houston as well as Florida. Hopefully, everybody's safe. Hopefully, everybody doesn't suffer any or too much damage. I know there have been some fatalities in Houston, which of course is sad, and we just hope the best for everybody that can possibly be. And I believe I'm going to be able to roll out an announcement this week about something that I'm going to be doing with somebody else in our community to help raise funds for the hurricane victims in Houston. So pay attention for that. It's going to be a webinar that we're going to do to help raise funds. So anyway, we are going to be talking about Meet Edgar. Couple of things around the web. I launched our second podcast this week, and I strongly encourage everyone to give this one a listen. I'm going to share my screen and show you once again where you can go to find our podcasts. I'm really excited about this. Speaking of Deborah, who's in Florida, who I think we just said is evacuating based on the hurricanes. She is my co-host on the Authentic Accountant podcast. And if you go to our website, and if you hit most of these menus, you'll see the big mega drop down and go to podcasts. In fact, you can go to podcasts right up here. And then here's the Authentic Accountant. Look there, and the site is, they've built a very good responsive site with this. So if you're on a mobile device, it should be very easy to browse to this and use it. And we've got 2 episodes up now. The first one, should I stay or should I go to QuickBooks Online? The second one, difficult clients. What are you willing to put up with? So, and there's a hot topic. I mean, it's always been a hot topic, but every time it comes up again, I think I'm reminded that it's more of a hot topic than I realize, because a lot of people struggle with this. We deal with difficult clients, and especially those of us who I think are newer, starting out with our practices, we're willing to put up with more because we feel like we're desperate. We need the money. We've got to get the bills paid, so we got to take what we can get, right? We don't realize what a mistake that is. And I think this podcast will help reinforce that. You don't want to get stuck with those clients. There are other ways. And we've always found that the energy we give up to these clients can be put to better use finding better clients. So that's in a nutshell what it's about. Go listen to it, though, and don't forget to post your comments and your feedback. So that is that. And, of course, we are rolling out more lessons in the main 97 and up course, which, again, is under subscription-based training. And we've now got 2 fully published sections on this, plus the weekly calls that we do every Tuesday and Thursday, which are recorded. And those are also archived under podcast. You'll find 97 and up episodes. But, of course, you can only access those if you're a signed-up member of 97 and up. And I put out a video this week letting people know well in advance that we will be increasing the price from 97 to 197 eventually. Not necessarily tomorrow, but it's going to happen. So here's that course. And, of course, from here you can click to view the outline and see what is covered. But right now, our first section is on setting your goals. And we give you a template, of course, to work with to build out really the financial model, to lay out what your revenues are going to look like, break it down into a monthly goal, and then for each month, we break that down into a daily goal so that you can focus on and reach your target. Sarah, how are you doing? You reaching your targets?
Call me out.
I'm calling you out.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, well, the goal sheet is a great reminder for me to make sure that everything is billed for prior months, and I like the resetting of my goal because they fluctuate lately. So I have my goal, and then I think for me it's like looking at it quarterly. So yes, in the past I haven't reached my goal. This month is a little different, or this last month, but I don't know. It's in the big picture. It's great.
Right, and that's the point. Is we're not going to. First of all, it's a moving target. We're going to need to update it, right, regularly, revisit it. It's the problem most people have, I think, with the goals they set is they set them and then forget them, and then like the whole year goes by and you're like, oh yeah, I set those goals. I wonder how I did, and it's too late to react or do anything, right? So this whole system forces you to look at it every single day and to update it. You can do it monthly, or like Sarah said, you can do it quarterly, whatever works for you. But the point is it keeps us focused. And I've revised my goals for the next month almost every single month after reviewing the previous month this year, right? And this is, I'll be honest, this is the first year ever that I've actually exceeded my goal every single month. Usually I expect fluctuations. I expect there are going to be some months where I expect that there's going to be at least a couple months during the year where I don't even come close to my goals. And then other months where I blow the goal away. The idea is the law of averages, right? And then on the whole, the overall curve is going to be an upward one with some up and down cycles along the way. That's normal. That's realistic, right? Anyway, so we've got that whole section rolled out. Then I rolled out a section on WordPress, which is not to say that you should necessarily design your own website, but you should know enough to be able to get in there once it is built so that you can make your own tweaks and updates, right? Because you're going to want to do something, which is what we're going to talk about in the next section that will be up in the next week or two, which is on producing content, right? So after we've got the plan built, then we've got the money site built, the place where people can come to hire us. Then the next thing we do is we have to create content, right? That's a lot of people come to me and say, Seth, I want to learn to do what you did. Well, that's what I did. I created a lot of content, and that brought traffic over to my site. So that's why it's important to have the site next so that we have that home for people to come to where we can offer our products and services. And then once we have the content creator, or once we're in the process of creating, in the habit of creating the content, that actually brings us to today's subject, because now we have to do some social selling. We have to get out there in social media, and we have to present that content to people. And then we want tools that will help us sort of syndicate it, which is not to say that you should entirely automate your social media process. That would be very inhuman, so to speak. What we want to do is be able to syndicate our content so that it's out there, you know, going out there all day long while we're busy doing other things, and then we watch and we look for the engagement opportunities, right? And that's what social selling is really all about. It's getting that content out there to provide us with the opportunities to put our brand in front of people. And the way we put our brand in front of people is not by selling anything, but rather by telling people or showing people, showcasing, this is what I can do. Right? When somebody calls me and they have an inventory-intensive business, I don't have to sell them on the fact that I know how to help a company who's got inventory as their core business infrastructure. They already know because they've seen my videos. The selling's done. And I didn't sell them by selling them. I sold them by teaching them, right? That's the whole concept here. So that's what I wanted to talk about today in regards to Meet Edgar, because Meet Edgar is a new tool that I've learned to use, which is a tremendous asset in terms of helping to better automate that content without having to keep doing the same work over and over again. You know, that's what I always am looking to automate in the bigger picture, right? And this goes to our bigger picture conversation about using all the apps that we use and setting up all the processes that we set up. We talk about things in the bookkeeping context of going to the cloud, using QBO, using the apps that connect with QBO, and creating these efficiencies so that we can be more strategic rather than transactional in terms of the services we offer our clients, right? And we raise our value so we can charge more. The same thing applies here. We want to automate whatever we can possibly automate so that we can be present for the things that really require that human interaction, for the relationship building stuff, right? So Meet Edgar is a tool I'm going to show you in a minute that's going to teach us how to, you know, I'm going to teach you how to use Meet Edgar, and you're going to see how Meet Edgar makes it really easy to do this and to keep up with it, because that's the big problem. I don't have time for all this. Great. We're going to use tools like Meet Edgar so you won't have to worry about having time for all this, right? That's the whole point, is to automate what can be.
Awesome.
Go ahead.
I'm looking forward to what Edgar can do for me.
Edgar is going to be your best friend, Gina. You and Edgar are going to get tight.
Okay.
So we have 3 learning objectives today. 1, learn why it's important to create your own content. Hopefully I've already begun to drive that point home, right? The content is what draws in the traffic. I don't want to have to be picking up the phone and selling people all day. I want them calling me, right? I want to create inbound traffic, and that's what creating content does. Hopefully that's clear to most people by now. But then the other thing here is I was very specific in my choice of words, is to learn why it's important to create your own content. In other words, don't hire somebody to create your content for you. It's fine to have somebody edit your stuff and clean it up. I've done that when I felt that I had a really important piece that I wanted it to be really perfect and the most optimized it could be. Then I have a good friend who's a writer who, frankly, because I've given her a lot of help with her own business, she's often happy to do it for free for me, but I would happily pay her just the same to edit, to copy edit my content. So there's nothing wrong with having somebody edit and clean it up if you don't think your writing is great, but at least it should be your own and it should come from your heart, because I believe that your heart is really the core of your brand, right? Your brand is a reflection of what's in your heart. That's something I've firmly believed for a long time. So that's why I think it's important, not just to create content, but to create your own. Don't hire somebody to create content for you. Number 2, we're going to learn how Meet Edgar can save you time, like I said, and help you develop your social media audience. And number 3, we're going to learn how to use Meet Edgar to automate our content so we can cultivate more engagement opportunities. Okay, so let me tell you a little story. You're all seeing my screen, right? Just making sure, because oftentimes I forget to actually share. Like, hey, what's wrong? So I want to show you something. And I got to bring it up. I should have been better prepared. I apologize. There it is. Smartsheet, by the way. Go ahead, Sarah.
Larry and Alexa are in the attendees.
Oh, we've got people in the queue. All right, I'll bring them in. I'll bring them in. Hold on. We're going to bring you in. Wait, where'd it go? There we go. Participants, attendees, Alexa and Larry. Light crowd today.
People are running. People are running from the storm.
That's true.
You're on the other side of the United States, so you don't have to.
I know. We need those storms to come over here to put out the fires.
Yes, you can have them. Well, they're not storm force.
Is account text still going on?
The who?
Account text.
Oh, account text? Yeah, as far as I know. That's up north, though. That's
in Boston. But I mean, in terms of people not attending, like Sarah, wasn't she presenting there or something?
Yeah, she's there. She's been posting on Facebook. She's up in, it looks like she took a little vacation also to Cape Cod and over that way, which is probably a more fun place to go.
I think she recently posted that she had to cut it short and go back to her home because they have an evacuation order. She's got to get stuff.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah, it could veer off in that direction.
Wow.
Hey. Yeah, they're on an island.
Gotcha. Well, that's not good. Well, I hope and pray that she's okay, and her family as well, of course.
You and me, both.
Okay, so you're seeing Smartsheet, right? And let me clear out my filter here. By the way, neat little trick in Smartsheet, same thing you can do with your browser tabs. Notice I have a bunch of tabs open. I can right-click and say close other tabs. So if you're one of those people that has like 5,000 tabs open, that's a really quick way to clean it up. You can do the same thing. And then, of course, it's the equivalent of QuickBooks desktops. You click Window and Close All, and it just closes every window. So I worked with somebody earlier this week where they had like several instances of the same Chrome session, right? Each with like what seemed like 100 tabs open. I was like, I don't know, that would drive me crazy. I have a lot of tabs open usually, but there's a point where it's like if I have too many, I'm overwhelmed and I can't find anything. I can't figure out where the tab is I'm looking for anyway. So it's like, what's the point? Makes me crazy. Anyway, so here is a log that I keep, and I've shown you all this kind of thing before that I've done, where I keep track of everything I ever publish anywhere that it's ever been published. So even if it's not on my own website, I keep track of it. We got the title, the date it was published. I added this in recently, the format. I want to know, is it a podcast or a blog post or something else, right? Of course, which website it's on, right? If it's on my own site, and up until very recently, I had, it could have been on sethdave.com or nerdenterprises.com. That's all been consolidated now. Everything's on nerdenterprises.com. But I have stuff that I publish elsewhere, such as the Firm of the Future blog, right? BQE, right? Every week I have stuff that goes out on the BQE blog. I had published a bunch of stuff this year on Fundera. So I keep track of it. And of course, the original URL for the post. And then we take the time ahead of time to get the shortened URL, because that makes it easy to compile the update, right? Which of course is what we're going to schedule to go up on Twitter or Facebook or what have you. And here I just test the length of the update to make sure it doesn't exceed Twitter's 140 character limit. And then here I was keeping track of the scheduled social date. But notice here, this is the final update I'm going to have to track in this project right here, where it says uploaded to Meet Edgar. And here's why. And this is what I'm going to show you in Meet Edgar in a minute. Once I upload content to Meet Edgar, or once I add in an update, unless I set an expiration, which I can do, it will stay in there in a repository. And then I can tell Meet Edgar exactly how to curate that content. I can say, put this out, I can create schedules, and I can say on the schedule, randomly pick from these different categories. And so you're going to see I can organize my content based on different categories, and then I can set up schedules about what to pull from, which categories to pull from, and then where to place it once it posts. So that's where I love Meet Edgar, because it makes it really easy to not just automate this stuff, but to organize it.
Momentum.
What?
Momentum.
Oh, yeah. What's today's picture? It's, I don't even know where that is. Bagan, Myanmar.
Tastes from Burma, didn't it?
What?
Was it Myanmar, Burma at one time?
No clue.
Okay.
You're more the history buff than I am, Dennis.
I think it's Burma.
I have no idea. I've never heard of it. But it looks beautiful. I'd love to go there. What's my main focus today? Meet Edgar. We're just going to say Edgar.
Is Meet Edgar a replacement for like Hootsuite, that kind of thing?
Not necessarily. It's because and this is what's important to understand, I think, about these tools in general. There are tools like Hootsuite that are two-way streets, right? Hootsuite, I can put content out there and I can listen. I can have the conversation, right? So Hootsuite is a two-way street. Meet Edgar is not a way that I can listen and talk with other people necessarily in social media. It's just a way of taking content and scheduling and curating that content, right? So tools like Meet Edgar or Buffer App, those are one-way streets. They're really only meant for pushing content out there. And that's what I was trying to make the point about earlier, is that these tools are important and useful for putting the content out there, but that doesn't preclude you from your responsibility to engage in social media and actually have conversations with people, right? You can't expect to just automate this entirely and ignore it. It doesn't work that way.
So right? Does it do it better than on the one-way street? Does it do it better than, say, Hootsuite?
Yeah, for the main reason that I just brought up, actually, which is that with Hootsuite, I have to constantly keep reloading my content, right? Okay. I can upload a queue, I can upload, and one of the things I was running into, which made me start looking for another option, which led me to Meet Edgar, actually, was that Hootsuite limits you to 350 updates that you can upload at one time, which sounds like a lot. However, when I have a single update that I'm scheduling to push to 3 different channels, that counts as 3 updates, right? So at that rate, I hit that 350 update capacity very quickly, especially with the amount of content that I have. So I said, nope, this isn't going to work. And I was looking at going back to a tool I used to use years ago called Social Oomph. But I didn't like that, and so I wasn't excited about going back to it. And I'd seen Meet Edgar enough, and I'd heard about it, and it had been on my radar to check it out. So finally I said, you know what? Now's the time to check it out, right? So there's another answer to a question that I get asked a lot is, when is it time to go look for something new or a new tool? And I just explained to you the exact use case. I have a limitation with what I'm currently using. I need a better solution. Let me go look and let me find a tool that solves the problem I'm trying to solve. In this case, my main problem I was trying to solve was the limited capacity with respect to my ability to upload updates, right? I don't want to have to be spending time re-uploading. So again, the beauty of Meet Edgar, what Meet Edgar does that none of the others do, is it allows you to create a library, and you can put content in the library and it stays there forever, right? And like I said earlier, you can expire things, and there's a lot of sort of options you have here in terms of how this works. So notice on my left, I have categories, right? I'm looking at my whole library right now, right? And notice here, the next post that's going out, which it's telling me, actually, this isn't the queue of what's going out. This is just what's in the library. So it's telling me that this post, why do accountants make great lovers? And the answer, they're great with figures, is in my questions category, right? My questions category is here. Notice I've got 21 updates in my questions category. Gina, you're laughing. You thought it was
I'm laughing because I'm thinking of Sushi's post that said, "Did you get a book of accounting jokes somewhere?"
Yes, the answer is no. I didn't get a book. I used the bigger book called the Internet, and I sourced a bunch of accounting jokes, and they're all terrible.
Yes, they are. But you know what? When you're all serious and into your work, and you see one of those stupid jokes, you laugh.
Exactly. And I noticed that, and it was just kind of a fun way to take a break, and they get engagement. People comment on them. And at the end of the day, remember that that's what this is really all about. I have one main objective at the core of everything I do in social media. Can anybody tell me what that is? It's a 3-word sentence.
3-word sentence.
Or a gold star. Who can guess what my core objective is? My one and only objective, really, in social media.
Connect with you.
Very close, Larry. Very close.
Create a relationship.
In fact, very close, Dennis. And either of those would actually qualify as meaning essentially the same thing. But the real core, the way I look at it is, my objective, my one sole objective with social media is start a conversation, right? That's what I want to do. I want to start many conversations with many people, because when I have these conversations with people, this is what I often stress. I think of the social media world as my 24/7 BNI networking group, right? 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. There's people all over the world engaging in social media. That's my networking group. And I want to start conversations with these people. I want to find the people that have common interests. One of the ways I do that, chiefly one of the ways I do that, is by curating content that illustrates what I'm knowledgeable about, right? And then this has been something that's been on my plan to do with questions like these, with these kind of dumb jokes, but I haven't had the time. And frankly, when I got into Meet Edgar and I realized how this is set up, where I can create these categories, and then you're going to see in a minute, I can set up a schedule that says, at a certain day at a certain time, pick something from the questions library and post it, right? And so when I realized I could do that, then I put it on my active collab primary to-do list to set aside time to write content for Meet Edgar. That was the actual task. It was specifically writing content for Meet Edgar. In this case, it wasn't as much writing content as it was sourcing content, because then I thought about it. I said, what am I going to do? How am I going to put something here? I want to ask questions online to try and, because asking a question is the best way to start a conversation, right? Because it invites people to give you an answer. So some of these are dumb jokes. Some of them are more serious, right? So I saw this as an opportunity, and then that motivated me to create the task to set aside the time to, curate the content one way or the other. So I did some internet searches. I Googled accounting jokes or bookkeeping jokes, and, I just copied and pasted a bunch of them, put them into the library. So we've got these categories, right? I've got blog posts, inspirational, funny, right? These actually, if I click on this, what I do almost every day now to fill up this queue, speaking of momentum, is I grab their quote of the day, Control-C to copy, close that back out. Let's click here and add new content. I paste it right in. I say I want it to go into the inspirational and funny category. Now here, I'm going to actually choose every single network as a potential network that this could be posted on. You're going to see when I show you how to create the schedules that when I set up the schedule, within the scheduling itself, I can still limit which categories anything gets posted to per that schedule. So the only reason I wouldn't want to select every network that I've connected to Meet Edgar is if for some reason I knew I was never ever going to want this to post on, let's say, my personal Facebook page for some reason, right? So normally when I add something new, I select every category, and then I choose my category, inspirational and funny. I mean, I select every network, every social network, choose my category, save to library. So every day I take what Momentum gives me and I throw it into the queue here for inspirational funny. Now let's look at the schedules. And it's so easy, as you can hopefully start to see, to use this thing. You just saw how easy it is to add content. And yes, I was able to bulk upload all that stuff I had in Smartsheet initially. Now I don't need to because I have a new blog post. I just come over here and add it in. And like I said, once you've added something in, it's in there forever, unless you set an expiration. And I'll show you how to do that. So here's my schedule. And you can create multiple schedules at the same time if you want different things going to different networks. So notice that between 9 and 10 a.m., I have two things scheduled Monday through Thursday. One is my inspirational or funny. So I'll go edit one of these. They're all the same. So basically I said only post. So this is what I was talking about. The actual content was set up when I added it, you saw a minute ago, to be able to be posted to any network, right? But here when I created the schedule, for this one, I only selected my personal Facebook page. And basically it's saying every Monday at 9 a.m., pick something from the inspirational or funny category. Looks like we have a question in the chat. Doesn't it warn you if it doesn't meet the rules for the medium such as Twitter? Yes, if I wrote the update, not here, but when I'm adding the actual update, if I've selected Twitter as one of the networks it goes to, and I've written more than 140 characters, it will let me know I've exceeded, and it won't let me save it, actually, until I've shortened it or eliminated the Twitter category. And that's where you might, within the individual post, want to change how you post something, because I might want to create two versions of it. Since Facebook allows, I think it's up to 500 characters in an update, I might want to write a longer version for Facebook and a shorter version for Twitter. So I have two copies of something with essentially the same message written for the different networks as appropriate, right? So you can absolutely do that. That's what I love about this, is it gives you that flexibility to be able to do it that way. So now when I'm creating the schedule, it's pulling from a library, right? It's pulling from the library, and it's pulling from a category. And if I choose random, it'll just pick randomly from any category, right? So an important thing to note there, when I create these categories, and let me go back there for a minute. If I go edit, for example, this inspirational funny category, and this is where you create these categories. If I edit this, notice what I've done is I've not checked this off, where it says included when selecting random content to post. It means that anything that goes into the inspirational or funny category will not be included when I'm creating a schedule and I tell it to pick something at random, right? Because and this is just, again, this is totally up to you. There's no right or wrong answer here. In fact, I may be totally wrong in how I'm doing this, but this is how I've chosen to do it so far, right? Is when I set up this, I only want this going to my Facebook page, and I only want these inspirational or funny updates being used for this one purpose, Monday through Thursday at 9 a.m., right? This is just how I've chosen to schedule my content. So every Monday at 9 a.m., it's going to post probably one of those things from Momentum that I got. Every once in a while, I might throw something else in there. Not every once in a while. Eventually, I'm really going to want to mix it up. And the beauty of it is, again, this stuff stays there forever, so it can get recycled, right? A lot of this stuff is timeless. Even though I posted an inspirational message from Momentum today, doesn't mean I can't post it again next week or next month, right?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say, for example, you don't use random. Does it pick the first one, then the next day pick the next one, and then at the end of the content?
I'm not 100% sure. I don't know if it goes in order of when you updated them. What I noticed was it seemed that if I put in something new into the inspirational or funny category before the 9 a.m. posting time, it seems like it puts the most recent thing I've added in there. And then I have a feeling it works its way backwards from there if I don't. In other words, I think if you add something new, it prioritizes that.
So, for example, say you have 25 items in your library for that particular category. On day 26, does it cycle back to item 1?
Yeah, it will go back. It will recycle. Again, I can put an expiration on things. But to use a term that we're all going to be familiar with here, Dennis, I believe if you don't choose random, if you just choose a category, it's last in, first out. right?
Okay.
I believe that, and then and if I don't add anything new, it'll cycle back to the first one that it put out and start all over again.
Okay, so it goes in a loop then.
Correct. I believe so.
Okay.
I suppose what I could do is create a category for just random stuff and choose that at random. In other words, again, because of the way it gives you the ability to set up these different pieces and put them together the way you want to, it gives you tremendous flexibility, right? So you can really set it up. In other words, if you didn't want that, let's say you said, I always wanted to just randomly pick something, you could set it up that way, right? There's even something they suggested for where you could have a category called one-time use, right? I haven't done that yet. So let's go create a new category so you can kind of see this whole process. So, of course, I click up here where it says categories. I'm going to say add new, right? And let's just call this one-time use. Oops, if I could type well. Now, I'm obviously not going to check off include when selecting random, right? Because I want it to be one-time use. I save it. Okay, so now when I add new content and I want to put it into that category, right, we're going to go to the schedule settings here. Notice what you can do. So first of all, I can choose a specific time and date and say send this then, right? And I can also, this is where you choose while you're scheduling any update to put an expiration on it. So if I don't choose this, right, and I choose expire, I can say, expire this next week. So let's say I have content, for example, that's announcing a webinar that I'm doing, right? This is a perfect use case for that. In fact, what I'd probably do is create a category for webinars, right, just to keep that all together, and then schedule that content. And what this is also doing, by the way, let me not get sidetracked. So this is where you would create a category called one-time use and probably choose a specific time and date, right, and then schedule that. And to answer, I think it was Alexa's question. So if I'm including Twitter, and I put in enough characters, notice up here to the top right, it's actually telling me how many characters I have left. And I love that they give you the help tip when you move your mouse over, it explains to you, right? It says it means I've got 70 left for Twitter and 530 for LinkedIn. I guess Facebook no longer has a limit, which makes sense because I've seen people write like novels in a Facebook update. And of course, once I exceed the number of characters available for Twitter, it shows me I'm now over by 20. So if I unselect Twitter, then I'm okay again. So it's smart enough to look at what networks I'm trying to post to and, where I've hit a limit. The other thing that's cool is I can also look at a preview, and it'll show me what that's going to look like on each particular network. I can choose which network, and it'll show me what it's going to look like on that network. But obviously, most of my networks are different Facebook, pages and groups and things. And then I have LinkedIn. So we can see what's this going to look like on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn doesn't give us a preview. Of course, typical LinkedIn. So this is how you could schedule something for one-time use. You could create a category just for that. And then you can set the specific time and say, okay, that's it. It's never going to get used again. And set the expiration on it. So going back to my schedules, and this is just kind of a strategy thing that I'm playing around with. First of all, I've noticed from having used tools before that kind of gauge when my content's most likely to be engaged with. I've noticed that those tools like Sprout Social that I've used, they don't schedule stuff much during the day, which makes sense because the kind of people who follow my content are people who are typically at work from 9 to 5, right? So they're not going to be involved in engaging in social media then. So that's why I've got heavy scheduling, notice, starting at 5 p.m. and then hourly all the way through to 11 p.m., right? And what I'm doing, frankly, just to play around, there's really no rhyme or reason to why I did this, but I just said Monday through Thursday is going to be mainly like, content. Like the random ones are really just pulling my blog post category, right? Most of the other categories that I have, I don't have that checkbox selected to include it when it's a random thing. Just the blog posts and podcasts. At 12 p.m. every day, I've got a category for tips. And I don't even know if I've added enough tips into that category yet. But I thought it'd be fun to just put the actual tip into the update itself rather than linking to a video that I've done. And because I noticed those kinds of posts tend to get a lot of engagement. So I thought noon, it's lunchtime, might be fun to throw some tips out there. So every day at noon, you can see here it's going to my Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. and I don't have to look to tell you that that's going to be my Facebook page, the Nerd Enterprises Inc. Facebook page. I don't like to push content like this into a group like Between Wall and Main, right? Because to me, that's more for conversation. It's not, to me, it's not appropriate. You know, once in a while, I might shove something in there if I think it's going to be really useful for people to discuss it there. And then what you've noticed, if you've looked, is on Friday and Saturday, I have a marketing category that's basically scheduled to go out every hour, something by way of marketing, right? And again, this is just kind of an experiment. But interestingly enough, my marketing posts seem to be getting more engagement than anything else. And maybe it's because I've written the headlines in such a way that's designed to drive engagement, more so than, you know, I pay attention to that maybe more so than when I'm writing my other kinds of updates, right? But because a lot of people in social media, I don't think actually click through to see what it is. They read an interesting headline and they retweet it or they like it or they reply to it, and they don't really know. There have been so many times where I thought it was really funny that I would have a status update on Twitter that advertised and linked to a service that I offer, and it would get retweeted by other bookkeepers. So basically they're sending their audience to somebody who's in effect competing with them for the same service, like a bookkeeping service, which, you know, like it is what it is. It's cool if they want to do that. You know, I would normally click through and see if it's a service that's really not competing with anything that I do. And of course, I'm happy to retweet stuff like that. But why would I want to send my audience to somebody to, you know, go hire them for something I can just as well do? I don't know. Anyway, so I've noticed the marketing tweets get engagements. Now, how to create a schedule. I can click right in here. So let's say I decided, you know what, on Mondays I do want to do something at 1 p.m. I can click right here in the calendar, or I can click here where it says add a time slot, right? Easy to do. Either way, now I'm going to choose where I want to post it to. So if I wanted to do not Mondays at 9 a.m., but let's say Mondays at 1 p.m., and you can just type it out. Right here I can either choose random, right, which again means it's going to pick at random from any categories that have had that option checked off that says include it when I'm selecting random, right? Remember I showed you that? Everybody with me? Okay. So if I can either choose random and it'll pick from any of those categories where I checked off to include it for random, or I can choose a specific category, right? I can say, let's do another tip. And then here, this is why I said when you're actually adding the content, choose all your networks unless there's some reason why that particular update should never go to a certain network. Because here is where you're really going to tell it which networks it can go to when it's been scheduled, right? So a lot of times I don't schedule things to go to my personal page. You know, the inspirational funny stuff I do because that's fun and every day at 9 a.m. And the other thing that I love about this, by the way, is the way it organizes the scheduling of my content. So now anybody who's following me, anybody who's connected to me on any of these networks, whether they realize it consciously or not, they're starting to pick up on the fact perhaps that every day at 9 a.m., you know, I post something inspirational or funny, right? And every day at 12 noon, something goes out there by way of a tip. So the idea is if you kind of train people to get in the habit that this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it consistently every day on a schedule, then people will, you know, sort of get trained to, that sounds terrible. It's not like I'm not talking about people being like dogs that I'm training, but you get my meaning. I'm trying to be consistent. So I think of it as like a television network, right? Where a television network has regularly scheduled programming. So if I know that I want to tune into a certain show, I know exactly what day and what time to go do it. Same idea here with my content. If people like my tips, then they're going to know that every day at 12 noon, that's when they should just check in on Seth's feed and see what tip did Seth post today, because he posts every day at 12 o'clock noon, right? So when we're creating the schedule, this is where we choose which networks it's going to post to on that schedule, right? And we're choosing the category. So random is probably what you're going to choose most of the time because most of your stuff might be organized that way. But again, if you want to do something that's very contextual like I did at 12 noon every day, I chose tips, right? And maybe there's something else I want to do. I wonder if I can probably do like 12:30. I haven't actually tried that yet. Let's say at 12:30 p.m., after the tip, I want to do a question, right? And now, where do I want this to go? I don't want it to go to the between wall and main strategy forum, because like I said, I don't like to hit the group with that kind of stuff. So I've unchecked that. This is actually, I have a between wall and main Facebook page, which I haven't done much with yet. This is the Nerd Enterprises Facebook page. I'll go there. I won't send it to the, this is something, excuse me, that we had created a while back by way of a personal brand for me. It's the Seth David, AKA Nerd Facebook page. Or yeah, it's the page. At this point, I keep saying I should probably just get rid of it, but it's got a lot of people who've liked it. So I'm just trying to figure out what to do with it at this point. So I exclude it. LinkedIn, I always push to, and Twitter, of course, I always like to push to on these kinds of things, right? And so I'm going to do this Monday at 12:30 p.m., and we're going to pick from questions. Now watch this. So basically what I'm creating here is a weekly recurring schedule. Every Monday at 12:30 p.m., that's what this is going to do, right? But then they make it easy to do the rest. So if I want to do the same thing on Tuesday, I just click on Tuesday, and it remembers the exact settings. So click, save, click, save, click, save, click, save, click, save. See how easy that is? So if you're going to do something pretty much every day, you create it once, that creates it as a weekly recurring, and then you just click on each of the other days and hit save because it's going to remember the exact same settings, always. So it's really, really easy to set up these schedules. So the way I see it, the whole kind of workflow here is you add content to the library, right? That's step one. You take your Meet Edgar account, you add content to the library. As you're adding content, or actually perhaps before you add content, you think about what categories you want to set up and set those up, right? So actually that's probably first. Just think about how you want to organize all your content, your blog posts, your videos, your podcasts, whatever you have. And by the way, underlying all of this is the idea that you should go create this stuff, right? You should go start, if you haven't already, start writing blog posts, start a podcast, right? Some people say, I don't want to get in front of the camera. Great. Leave the camera off and just record your voice. Get excited. You love what you do. There's no reason you can't get excited about it and record the audio. That actually lets people hear the excitement in your voice. Nothing is more contagious than that anyway, right? That's why my videos have done well. I have no illusions about that because I got excited about the stuff. And I said, I went out there on YouTube. I saw most people didn't sound that excited about it. And I said, all I have to do is get excited about this and it'll work. And it did. I was right. Even videos, you don't have to turn the camera on. Just do a screen cap. Do a demonstration. Teach me how to record NSF checks in QBO. And I know a million people have done it before, but you haven't. And your way of doing it and your energy is going to be different. It's going to attract people that may hate my content because I go too fast, right? I get a lot of that. So step one, really create your categories. How are you going to organize your content? And it doesn't need to be all your own blog posts because you want to do stuff like this, like inspirational and funny, right? You'll want to do some promotional or marketing stuff. Don't ask me what the difference is between two. I have a feeling since there's nothing in this library, this is probably one of the default categories they added for me. And I didn't even pay attention, and I created my own. Questions, again, great way to get engagement. So create the categories that you can write for, right? Because then that's the other thing. People say, hey, I don't know, how do I get ideas, right? Well, create the categories. That should spark, your interest in terms of what your ideas are. And since we have 15 minutes left, if everybody tells me that they'd like to, I will show you where I keep my blog post ideas and how I kind of deal with that. Dennis is shaking his head. He's like, yes, show me. I want to see it.
Is it the brain?
No, well, that's part. It could be. But no, that's not what I use specifically. I'll show you. I have it in a couple of different places. It just depends on like what day of the week, time of day, and mood I'm in at the time. But I'll show you what I do where I, like when I get a fleeting thought, and I'll show you a couple different places where I keep them. And I'll invite you to plagiarize and take screenshots of my ideas because you can write them yourself. Because like I just said, it doesn't matter that I've done it because you're going to have your own approach and flavor, right? So create your categories, then build your library and put things into the appropriate categories as you do it. There is a bulk upload option, right? You can import from a CSV file. And if you click on that, really, really easy to do. It tells you very plain and simple. 2 columns, the text itself and what category you want it going into, right? Make sure that whatever category you have in that CSV file has already been created in Meet Edgar. Otherwise, I believe it will create it for you, but I haven't tested that. So really, really simple. I just have my update and my category. That's it. right? So if you have a lot of blog posts already that you'd want to add into this, then I would compile the list in a spreadsheet, right, or Smartsheet like I did, and then you can upload that, so you can get a lot of your content in here right away if you've written a bunch of blog posts. Then from once you have your all your stuff caught up with the bulk upload, then you just add them one at a time whenever you publish something new, right? If Scott Citron emails me today and says, "Hey Seth, I've published your next article on Firm of the Future," I'm going to do two things actually. I'm still going to track it in this log. Can anybody tell me why? It's a simple answer actually. I may decide one day I no longer want to use Meet Edgar. I may find a newer, better tool, right? I don't want to be locked into having to find a way to export all my stuff from here. So I still keep my master log here in Smartsheet. And as you can see, once I've added something, I'll log it here. And then once I've added it to Meet Edgar, I'll check it off so I know it's been added to Meet Edgar. So I know I don't have to worry about it ever again as long as I'm still using Meet Edgar.
You have 177.
I have a lot more than this. But this is what I've logged. When we launched the new website, I actually wiped a lot of old content because I said, you know what, some of that's so old and the videos are still up on YouTube. So I said, let's let it go. Let's let it die in terms of the blog itself. And I'll either go back and write a new fresh blog post and embed that old video, or I'll do an updated version of the video because a lot of that content was written on 2008, 2009 QuickBooks Desktop, right? So it's time to update and refresh it. Anyway, I left it on YouTube because it still drives traffic and because all of these things just about work exactly the same in concept. It's just that the screens look a little different, right? So sorry, Gina, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I probably have more than twice this much in reality out there.
I thought so, actually, and I did not think you cut me off. I was thinking that's a good question. When do you refresh your content? When does it become old?
When you feel like it's become old. It's very organic, really. It's when you feel like it's become old. And the truth is, a lot of this is evergreen, which, by the way, brings up another point. Strategy-wise, you might create a category called evergreen for your content that's never going to get old because it's a basic 1 + 1 = 2 kind of thing that's never going to change, right? But so when does it become old? I think it's pretty subjective, and it just depends on the content itself. If I have a post about the new features that rolled out in the latest 2018 version of QuickBooks Desktop, then that's not going to be relevant in a year from now when they come out in 2019, right? But do I want to get rid of it? No, it might be of interest to somebody at some point to want to know, hey, what did they come out with that was new in 2018 versus, I don't know, But something like how to record NSF checks in QuickBooks, again, the screens are going to look different. In theory, I could, so some of that kind of content I could update yearly, right? I could say every year I have newer screens, they look different. I'm going to do this is how you do NSF checks in this year's version of QuickBooks, right? Excuse me, or even QuickBooks Online, where they've changed the interface dramatically if you compare it a year ago to what it looks like today, right? But still it works the same way. An NSF check's an NSF check, right? Customer paid me, money went into the account, then it got taken out, right? Now I've got to go put that back into my receivables and collect it again, right?
Is there any way you can flag the content so that needs to be updated, say a year from now, or that you could filter on?
Well, again, you could probably do that with a category. The only thing to be aware of, though, is if I add new content, and by the way, I love that whatever screen I'm in, I can add new content. I can only put one update in one category, right? So, like I said, let's put it this way. You can reverse flag it, Dennis, by saying anything that's evergreen, I can put in an evergreen category and make sure that I do check off that box. In fact, I'm going to do that right now because I actually think it's a really good idea. Every once in a while, I come up with a good idea.
And we got to see it live today.
That's right. You got to see me get inspired. And now I'm going to leave this checked off. I do want that included when I select random. So it's kind of a reverse engineering of it, Dennis. For anything that's an evergreen, I know I never have to worry about. The other stuff, I can go into my library here, right? And I can say, all right, let's check in on my marketing stuff and see, is any of this stuff, kind of old.
Can you flag it by date so that you can filter on?
There's no real sorting options here in the library. So I'm guessing it actually is in chronological order. Like this may be the most recent thing I added to marketing. I don't remember specifically because I added a whole bunch of stuff at once here. But
so in theory, you could start at the bottom of the list.
Yeah, exactly. You go to the bottom of the list. I have a feeling that's the oldest stuff. It seems like I should have more than this in marketing, but maybe not. I kind of went through, no, it says I've got 9 posts. I kind of went through every course and wrote an update for each course that I have here. And then this is my recent one on bulk pricing. So this is one that actually should have had an expiration because today is the last day for this. So actually tomorrow I'm going to expire it. What I can do is I can edit this now. And let's go to schedule settings, and we're going to expire it at midnight tonight. 12 a.m. on 9/9/17. Save it.
Does it create like an archive of expired?
I don't know. I doubt it. I don't think so. I mean, it may be that I'll find out now because this is the first time I've set an expiration on something. It may be that it will leave it in there but not include it and let me know that it's there but expired, so I can unexpire it if I want to. I don't know.
It may be something that happens every year or something like that, so you might want to just.
Right. So then I can create a category called annual or annual-marketing, right? Or marketing-annual or marketal or market annual or anal or something. Sorry, I got hung up on that. And here it reminds me that I like this language. It leads me to believe that they are not from the United States. It says showing only marketing contents. Click here to remove. So that's how you get back to where you're seeing everything that's in your library. But I love this because the fact that you can create as many categories, as far as I know, there's no limit to how many categories you can create. You can really address things like that, Dennis, like anything you want. If there's something like that with a very sort of unique criterion, then you just create the category that describes that criterion and put stuff in that category so that you can then come over here to the library and filter that one category, like my one-time use stuff, right? And then here it shows me there's nothing in one-time use. So this is another way to sort of set up your workflow. Like if I know now that I have one-time use and there's nothing in it, then maybe I need to come here and click Add New Content and start writing some one-time use stuff, right? So it also kind of...
So does this have a free version with a pro version that you pay for? Or is it...
You get like a 30-day free trial, and then it's $49 a month.
Oh, okay.
So what I did when I signed up for this was I killed off my Hootsuite account. And I'll explain to you why, even though Hootsuite doesn't get replaced by this, because you asked me that, Dennis, right? And I said Hootsuite's a two-way street. I'll tell you why I killed off Hootsuite anyway. I didn't want to pay for it anymore. Killed off Buffer App, because Buffer App was one of those things that's really cool in concept, but this definitely replaces Buffer App. And I think it does a much better job than Buffer App does at what it's trying to do, which is just scheduling and curating content. And again, the one thing that this does that none of the others do is it keeps the content, so you don't have to constantly, re-upload it, right? It leaves it in the library. So I got rid of Buffer App, which was $10 a month, I think, or something like that, and I got rid of Hootsuite, which I was paying for myself plus one user for Erica, so that was like $26 a month, something like that. So I got rid of a $36 a month in expenses, added $49, so I have a net increase to my expenses of like $11 or whatever it is, right? I'm not that good with math. So that's the pricing. It's like $49 a month, which I think is very reasonable if you think about it. $600 a year if I get one new client because I managed to organize my content while using a tool like this, that's going to more than pay for it many times over. All right, we got 5 minutes left. I promised to show you what I do about keeping ideas, right? Before I do that, though, any questions? No? Everybody's cool? Clear as mud? All right, so let me check my learning objectives here. Did we learn why it's important to create our own content? Did we learn how Meet Edgar can save you time and help you develop your social media audience? Did we learn how to use Meet Edgar to automate our content so you can cultivate more engagement opportunities? Perfect. All right, I got my thumbs up. So All right. So the other thing I realized I promised that I want to make sure I talk about is something else you said, Dennis. Oh, why did I eliminate Hootsuite even though this is a one-way tool? Because the reality is the Twitter app, going directly on Twitter, which is primarily what I use Hootsuite for, because for Facebook, I go on to Facebook. For LinkedIn, I go on to LinkedIn. And I had a conversation with somebody not long ago where they said, I just go on Twitter, which seemed a novel idea to me because I didn't think anybody really went onto Twitter to use Twitter. I always thought you just used an app because like Hootsuite, you can organize it in different columns and things based on topics. But the reality is I'm finding that I like this much better. It's just going directly onto Twitter, and I can go into my home feed, and then the main Twitter app, right, not Hootsuite, but the actual Twitter app for your mobile, actually works really well. Because what am I looking to do here? Mainly when I go on here, I'm looking for the engagement opportunities, right? So I've used Meet Edgar, and I've curated content, and it's going out there every hour on the hour, and now somebody replies or says, hey, great post. I really like that. I got a lot out of it. I'm looking for those mentions on Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn, and I'm looking for those opportunities to get back with them and thank them at least for acknowledging my content, right? If nothing else, again, to start a conversation. So I can do that very well directly here on Twitter. And then the other thing I want to spend some time each day doing on here is looking for other people's content to retweet. But I never want to just retweet something, right? A lot of people want to say, well, how do you build your social influence, right? How do you build your social media audience? You want to find the influencers who are out there in social media and engage with them. So if I, for example, know that I love Gene Marks and I love what he posts, I search for Gene Marks right here, and I can see what Gene Marks is posting. And the trick is this. I don't just want to retweet it. I always want to add a comment. I always want to throw my 2 cents into the conversation. It does 2 things. First of all, it injects me into the conversation. If I just retweet it, it's practically going to go unnoticed, right? I may get a couple of other people following me who see that and then retweet my retweet. Who cares? Right? If you want to start a conversation, and most importantly, if I want to get somebody like Gene Marks talking to me, now I get put alongside the major influencers in the small business space. And if other people see, oh, Seth David and Gene Marks talk to each other on Twitter, then guess what? Now their perception is that I'm an influencer too. So if you want to become an influencer, and what I mean by that is I'm not talking about the idea of just, some pompous ass calling themselves a thought leader. I'm talking about actually being friendly with the people who have influence, because your ultimate objective here in social media is to start a conversation. But then why do we want to start a conversation? Well, we want to build a network of people, right? We want to be able to refer and get referred, right? Remember, to me, this is a networking group, online, social media, 24/7. So the reason I got rid of Hootsuite, Dennis, is because I'm doing it this way now. And of course, the other thing, going back to the other issue that some of you may be wondering, having heard what I just said, is identifying those influencers, and that's where Nimble comes in, which is another conversation for another day. We've had many sessions on Nimble that we've done, and we'll do them again. In fact, I got an email this week about something new they're rolling out, which is really cool. So once that gets rolled out and I get more information, I'll probably schedule a Friday session on Nimble. So real quick, what do I do about curating my ideas? Let me bring you first. Can you guess, Gina, aside from the brain, where I might do this? Just knowing what you know about the apps that I use and love?
I can't keep track of all the apps that you know and love. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Wunderlist.
So Wunderlist is right. That's the other answer. And then Active Collab, right? So Active Collab, I actually have a project called Content/Newsletters. And Active Collab, by the way, has a great mobile app. So when I get a fleeting thought, I can quickly just bang out an idea, right? And I have this list called ideas. And so and feel free to take a screenshot if you want ideas for yourself. Alexa says, I think Meet Edgar is great. Hard part is finding the time to develop the content. I don't know how you do it and get anything else done. So the answer is, like anything else, Alexa, I schedule the time, And what I've done lately, because I have gotten very busy with all the other stuff that I'm doing, especially because I've been aggressively growing my consulting practice, this year, my revenues are going to be more than they've ever been, ever. This is a record year for me already, and the year's not even over yet. I still have another quarter left to go, more. Mostly because I've been really developing the consulting side of my business, more so than the training even. So how do I find the time? I schedule the time, and for me these days, my content day right now is Saturday. So Saturday is my day to produce content, and that's all I do. And basically, I shut everything else off. I'm not going to answer any emails. I'm not going to engage much because I'm going to be busy creating content. And throughout the week, I'll put my ideas in here. And then, Dennis, you're absolutely correct. Wunderlist is another great tool. We saw this in depth last week. And the reason this tool in particular is great is because of how quickly and easily. The idea is I get a fleeting thought. I don't have time. I'm afraid I'm going to lose my train of thought before I get it down. I need something where I can quickly just bang it out, right? So I'm trying to shut that stupid reminder off. So where do I go for that? I actually have something in here called blog post ideas. And Wunderlist is being a little slow right now. The mobile app is actually much better than the desktop app. Here, blog post ideas. What do you know? I have a folder for it, and then I have an ideas inbox. And the reason for this is if I ever decide to use this more than Active Collab, then I'll probably have a list for the ideas inbox, and then I might have lists for different sort of categories or channels or something, right?
I have an idea for a blog post for you.
What is it?
Disaster planning.
Disaster planning. What do you mean?
What to do in the event of a hurricane or a malware attack on your hosted QuickBooks.
You should collaborate with Sarah on that. That's personal experience.
That's funny. That's funny. But yeah, so this is where I keep track of my ideas. And I at one point I was using Wunderlist exclusively, but lately, as you just saw, I've been using Active Collab more because I do so much other stuff in Active Collab, right? I thought this was a clever title for a blog post, QuickBooks Online with Advanced Rapport, right? Like it's a play on advanced reporting, advanced rapport, anyway. Building strong relationships in a cloudy world. It's all about relationships. So that's what I do to keep track of my ideas. And then on Saturdays, I can sit down, and it depends on what my main focus right now is not even on any of this. My primary focus right now when I sit down on Saturday is actually on this, which is here you have the outline for that 97 and up course, right? Section 1 on building the plans, Section 2 on WordPress, all published. This is in process. This is going to get done basically this Saturday, tomorrow, right? I'm probably going to record it all tomorrow, and then maybe next Saturday I'll edit it so that by the following Saturday I can publish it.
Well, Dennis had a good thought. What were you thinking, Seth, when the fire above you was really, really stoking up? What were you thinking when you thought, well, maybe I'm going to have to move out of here?
I was thinking about what stuff is important to take with me. First of all, I was feeling a deep sense of relief that I didn't have to worry about any of my computer files because everything's backed up. Everything's in the cloud, right? I could throw my computer away right now and not lose a thing. So I remember feeling a sense of relief about that because that's what it means to truly be in the cloud is I don't have to worry about any of that. So I was actually more focused on what's the sentimental stuff, things like photos. I have a trunk filled with albums of photos from my childhood. That's the stuff I was thinking I want to make sure I grab because that can't be replaced. And then it made me think I need to get that stuff scanned, because I do want to.
Insurance first, I would think.
I've got that covered.
Information. Oh, you got that stuff?
Again, that's paper. Who keeps paper anymore, especially for something like that? That stuff's all scanned and archived, and I would never have to worry about that. I mean, are you telling me that people actually keep insurance documents on paper and not scanned and archived somewhere digital? To me, that's just plain insanity. But that's the thing. I was very relieved because I was like, the world I live in, no important document would ever need to be worried about, right? Because any important documents I have are actually scanned, archived in Evernote, and shoeboxed as well. I have them probably 2 places at least. Never, ever have to worry. In fact, I realized like a month ago that I had never turned in my personal tax documents to my CPA who does my taxes. And so they emailed me requesting them. And I was like, and I went and looked in the usual folder where I keep them, and it was empty. I was like, no way. That's not like me. Did I lose my scans? And I realized I had just never gone through. And because they get scanned, they go into shoebox. It gets pushed into Evernote. And I had usually then I'll take it from Evernote and just organize, rename things, and then put a copy in a box.com folder because it's easy to share from there for the CPA. And the fact that it's not there means I haven't done that yet. But I was so relieved because I know my process that I was able to just go into Evernote, and look by date, right? By the date that it would have gotten scanned in January, right? And so it would have been in Evernote by late January, early February at the latest. And I was able to quickly find everything. And then, of course, I finished my process that I thought I had finished months ago and apparently never did. So it's such a relief to me to know that I have these kinds of systems for any important documents all taken care of. Like, no, and it's funny because I was reading online that people were talking about, oh, take important documents. I'm like, what documents? They're all digital. They're all online. Like, what are you thinking not having that stuff scanned, right? Especially because it's important. But Gina, I'm guessing from your reaction that you're in touch with people who aren't doing that.
Oh, there's a lot of people that aren't doing that, sadly.
Yeah, to me, that's like I said, that's pure insanity. Like, why wouldn't you do that? But I guess that's from being an early adopter that at this point for me, it's a no-brainer, but that's not necessarily the case for everybody. So I try not to judge. Sometimes I judge. I can't help it. Anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So who wants to use Meet Edgar? And, of course, if you need help figuring out how to create content, you know where to go. You know who to call, right? Call Dennis. He's great at creating content. He's going to be using Wunderlist and Active Collab and Meet Edgar. And oh, wait. We have an attendee who hadn't come in as a panelist yet. No, but that's it. So I hope you all like Meet Edgar. Sounds like you do. And like I said, if you need any any help with any of this, you do know where to find me. I'm not kidding about that. I'll be more than happy to help. And join 97 and Up if you haven't already. I think it's a great program. I think Sarah will tell you that it's a great program. Sarah, is it a great program?
It's fabulous.
We helped Sarah this week very specifically deal with a difficult client. Speaking of our recent podcast that we published this week. So it's more than just a coaching program where you do a course. We really work with everybody. And so Sarah's able to come along with another colleague of ours and say, hey, we're having these particular challenges with this client. And it made me so proud because we talked about it on Tuesday. Wednesday, you had a call with the client. And then yesterday, you reported to me how much our conversation helped you with that call that you had on Wednesday. Can you share in a general way about that? I'm fishing for a testimonial here, Sarah.
This is recorded.
It was like a personal coaching session in a lot of ways, and it was such a relief to practice what we learned on Tuesday and Wednesday. Just happened chance. It just happened on Wednesday, and it continued on, by the way, Seth, and it's worked out beautifully. I'm seeing these threads, and I'm like, oh my gosh, everything you said, there it is. It's all being reported, but it just gave me more confidence in how I wanted to approach it too. So I was grateful, very, very grateful.
Good. I'm glad. Well, Thank you so much, Gina. Later today, anything goes?
Anything goes, unscripted.
Beautiful. So we'll see you all at 2 o'clock Pacific, 5 o'clock Eastern. Look for Gina's Facebook group on Facebook so you can get the information to join. Gina, what's the Facebook group called?
Small Business Accounting Advisors.
All right. We'll see you there. SBAA, Small Business Accounting Advisors.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Have a great weekend.